Guys, it is October 23rd. We are almost a week out from Halloween.
Whoa.
And we have a very special episode today. It is our 2022 Halloween special, but I have to ask you guys, this is very pertinent to our episode today. How many ways are there to kill a werewolf? We all know the first way, silver bullet, but what is the second way to kill a werewolf?
Kick him in the nards?
That will definitely cripple him, but I don't know.
What if it did kill him? That would be amazing.
All you have to do is kill the head werewolf, then all the werewolves underneath it just die.
Isn't that a vampire thing?
It's a werewolf thing also. Have you not watched? God, I can't think of the fucking movie now.
As long as they're werewolves, not swearwolves.
Is that like Underworld Rise of the Lycans or something?
I don't know. Those movies are garbage, dude. Yeah, we're here to talk about good werewolf stuff. Your mileage may vary.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting how many ways are there to kill a werewolf, because I feel like every werewolf movie changes this rule. Like, I just watched American Werewolf in London last night. Probably the best werewolf movie ever made. They don't use silver bullets in that movie. They just use guns.
Yeah,
just like
they just
good old-fashioned guns. And I don't know. I take some umbrage with that.
It's grounded in reality, Zach.
I think they try to make it only true love can bring the demise of a werewolf, sort of, but the first werewolf doesn't die by true love in that movie.
Yeah, they just get shot by random people unless there's some kind of relationship we don't know about. Yeah.
So I don't know, man. American Werewolf in London, absolutely incredible movie, but they do not follow the number one rule.
No, and plus they had the whole thing about all the victims being undead and showing up to the werewolf, which is great. I love it. Not in anything else that I can think of.
Mm-hmm.
But absolutely, who doesn't love Jack? Come on.
Yeah. Griffin Dunn. Good Halloween costume there. I had a really strange sudden urge to drink Dr. Pepper after watching that movie. It was really odd.
Well, I have a Dr. Pepper commercial to talk about that features werewolves.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Segue.
Let's talk about werewolves.
This is where you put in a woo.
Welcome to another Mishwell Podcast 2022 Halloween special. This is our Halloween special, and this year we are talking about werewolves. If you've been following us for a little bit, you know that we've done a couple episodes like this in the past. Our very first one was a Dracula in pop culture episode.
Yes.
I do want to address there's a little controversy with that episode because I titled it Dracula Has Risen from the Grave, and all I got was another Mishwell Podcast, and some commenters on YouTube were upset because they thought it was just an episode on Dracula Has Risen from the Grave. So my bad. I just thought it was a clever title.
And we didn't mention that film at all.
We do talk about it. Yeah.
I taled about it for 5 minutes.
Okay.
It also has thousands.
They got their 5
views.
minutes then. They shouldn't complain.
Yeah, that's one of our most popular episodes.
It's just people hate watching.
I apologize if we clickbaited you. I just,
But it fucking worked. So
Got to get views somehow.
On the flip side of the coin, our second episode in this lineage, Bogus Frankenstein and Pop Culture, also a great title, didn't get any views.
Right.
So maybe I should title this after a famous werewolf movie.
To
American
be
Werewolf in
fair,
London or something.
Frankenstein is nowhere near as popular as Dracula. Nobody cares about those Peter Cushing, Christopher Lee Frankenstein movies. Especially not compared to the Dracula movies.
That's fair.
Let's call this an American Werewolf in Another Miserable Podcast and see if it works.
An American Werewolf in Burbank.
Yeah, if you guys don't
Arkansas.
Remember our format for this, it's a format that basically we're doing what Dinosaur Dracula does a lot, but we're talking about werewolves in pop culture. So this can bring us to toys, it can bring us to TV shows, it can bring us to movies, video games. I kind of refrained from doing video games this time. We can talk about cartoons. We can talk about just like a werewolf costume that we remember as a kid or something. I don't think any of us are doing the Home Depot werewolf, but I got to tell you, if you haven't seen one turned on, they're pretty dope when they're actually going.
I've seen 2 this season. They're great.
Yeah, and we saw one yesterday. We had a sushi adventure yesterday. Not very Halloween-y, but it was cool. Yeah. So my choices are weird. From what I've seen from Zach's got a weird choice. Ours are kind of similar. One of ours.
We got a few.
Yeah.
I got a couple movies because I'm like that, but I have one commercial, and then the rest, let's just be a surprise. So my name is Zach, by the way. The person that was just talking is the one and only Professor Casey.
Ahoy hoy.
And rounding out our horrific trifecta here, the Criterion Kid, the graduate, Kris Pistol.
Ahoy hoy.
I start my classes with that more often than not.
That's
and
amazing.
Not one kid has said, "What is that from?" And I'm very disappointed by that.
So we are going to be your horror hosts for the next spine-tingling 60 minutes. I hope you're having a wonderful Halloween season, so let's kick things off. Who wants to start? Sorry, that was a really poor laugh. If anyone wants to, do a better one.
I kind of segued into Dr. Pepper and werewolves, so I don't mind starting.
All right, Casey, kick off our werewolf show here.
Please, I'm on my way to Grandma's. Hey, how about some low-fat cottage cheese? Maybe a Diet Cola? Well, I was saving this for myself, but... Hold up, for the out of the ordinary, sugar-free Dr. Pepper. Mama warned me about wolves. Hold up.
All right, so werewolves don't get a lot of commercial love. I gotta say that if you're a monster, Dracula, Frankenstein, even a piece of shit mummy, they get way more commercials than werewolves do. In fact, the Doritos commercials, you never see the Wolfman. He was included in the promotion, but that famous "Vat, no dip," only Frankenstein and Dracula. Where's the Wolfman? Come on. So this commercial, you gotta reach back. For some reason, Zach and I were able to find them from the 70s. But yeah,
I guess werewolves don't need dip.
I guess. I mean, they're just gonna eat a person or something, right? But yeah, I found a Dr. Pepper commercial a while ago that I really loved, and then Matt from Dinosaur Dracula posted a bunch of really cool Halloween commercials, like as a chain of commercials, just like a little package of stuff, and it was on there. And I'm gonna say that this blurs the line between Little Red Riding Hood and a werewolf story, but how many times have we seen that? A million times, right? So yeah, this does take place during the day, which is a strike against it a little bit, and it does not involve a full moon based transformation, which I think is important. So what happens is there's a roller skating lady, kind of skimpily dressed, but she's wearing a red shirt, so I guess that makes her Little Red Riding Hood. She's roller skating through a forest because, hey, it's 1979. What can I say? This is before any of us were born, even my old ass.
Also one of the greatest werewolf makeups I've ever seen.
Actually, I think it looks horrible makeup wise because it looks about on par with the French Beauty and the Beast movie from the silent era. But
it looks like almost CG, but it's not, because this was certainly way before then. But like, it's probably because the quality of this upload isn't very good, but it's so strange. Like,
but I gotta say though, that's the reason I picked this, is because this was all practical effects, and there is a morphing that happens that looks amazing. So basically, Little Red Riding Hood meets a werewolf. She offers him a Diet Coke, doesn't want it. Offers him a very giant glass bottle of Dr. Pepper, and he chugs it. And as he does, his snout shrinks and he turns into a handsome man instead of a werewolf. And that shrink, that's a pretty damn good effect for a commercial budget and practical effects, I gotta say.
He kind of looks like a live action version of Fruit Brute. Like, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Yeah, his face is very fleshy and not hairy.
He also looks like when the kid turns into a monkey in Jumanji.
Yes!
Yes.
That is exactly what he looks like.
Yeah,
that's very good.
100%. Thank you. Yes.
Good job, Kris.
Yes, that's exactly what he looks like.
That's exactly what it looks like.
But the transformation, beautiful, non-CGI practical effect. So I wish there were more commercials like this. I know we fast forward through things these days. You know, we're DVRing, and that's if we're not streaming and skipping commercials that way. But goddamn, this is a beautiful commercial. It's a lost art. And I got to say, check it out. We'll have the links in the show notes. You can see it.
What year did it come out in?
1979.
Same year as my commercial. Wow. That's hilarious.
It was the year of werewolf commercials.
So here's the thing. Zach's commercial, kind of the same premise. Do you want to transition into yours, man?
I mean, I was going to try and sparse it out, but I guess since we're doing commercials, sure. Here's another werewolf commercial, everybody.
Oh! Please edit all those out.
Some mornings, there's a little monster in all of us.
Morning, Fred.
And until that first cup of coffee, we can all be pretty beastly.
Morning, Fred.
That's when your 7-Eleven store can be a lifesaver.
Good morning, Fred.
With a good cup of fresh brewed hot coffee to perk up your morning. 7-Eleven coffee brings out the best of the beast in you.
Hey, wow.
Hey, guys, did you know that 7-Eleven coffee brings out the best of the beast in you?
Yes, I guess. I mean, no, I don't drink it, but... Okay,
yeah, I've never had a cup of 7-Eleven coffee, so I'm going to need someone to verify this for me.
What?
I've heard the blueberry coffee is very good, though.
I can confirm it smells like blueberry, like Dinosaur Dracula says, but it's extremely hard to find. Anyway, the thing I got to tell you is, my gosh, 7-Eleven gets Halloween. Okay.
Yeah, this commercial is like phenomenally, like as a storyline, like it just so well told.
But even as a kid, we would go trick-or-treating to 7-Eleven. They would give you a free Slurpee every year.
Wow.
Yeah.
There is not one 7-Eleven, I think, in the state of Arkansas. So I
Holy
never went.
Shit.
I never went to 7-Eleven until I moved to California, and there was one like 2 houses away from my apartment. So I would like go there a lot, especially in October when they had the pumpkin spice flavored.
I would say it was crazier years ago. Pre-Starbucks, pretty much all those locations would have been 7-Elevens. Like,
yeah,
that's how ubiquitous they were.
I mean, I went to 7-Eleven all the time in middle school. I'd always get a Slurpee and a bag of gummy worms. That was like my thing.
Yeah, and we'd go
like
play video games there. Like, they had arcade games until kids started stealing things.
Mine wasn't that cool. We did have Slurpees, though.
Oh, man, I used to play Mortal Kombat 2 there, Street Fighter, all kinds of stuff.
The one I frequented, though, did get turned into like a Quickie Mart for that promotion they did when the Simpsons movie came out. Like, the one I would go to when I was a kid.
Nice, yeah, because you had like a prestige one.
It didn't feel that prestige when I was going to it when I was a kid. It was like just kind of in a weird like sort of island near like a McDonald's and was a Vons and now a CVS.
I would also get like a slice of pizza that was $1 there all the time. And on really, really sad nights, me and my roommate would actually get a full pizza from 7-Eleven. Just like $5.
Good time, 7-Eleven. Anyway, you guys know how to make a commercial, so let me just, for our listeners, let me break down what's actually happening here. So we start off with some mornings, there's a little monster in all of us, and you see a guy coming out of his driveway in a little convertible top down, and he has a pretty shoddy, like Lon Chaney Jr. werewolf makeup on. And his neighbor goes, "Morning, Fred." And the whole gag of this commercial is, the guy in the werewolf makeup going, "Arr!" He
does little claw fingers, like quote unquote.
He does the claw at the end, but he's just really grumpy. And then a cop pulls him over. And, I think he says, "Hey, Fred," and he again growls at him, which I don't think you'd get away with today.
He would have got tased and or shot at this point.
Because until that first cup of coffee, we can all be a little beastly, which is, I guess, true for some people. And And here's where it all comes together and where it ties into 7-Eleven because, as the narrator says, that's why your 7-Eleven store can be a lifesaver. So he cuts to 7-Eleven, and everyone knows this guy, even at 7-Eleven somehow. And I don't think he works at 7-Eleven, so he's just a regular. And so he goes to drink a coffee, and he's growling again. This is when he does the claw for some reason. And I want to know who gave him that note to do a claw.
God, I hope there was a director that made him do like 10 takes trying to figure out what was missing.
This commercial was actually directed by a young Stanley Kubrick.
Young Stanley Kubrick directed this commercial?
Actually, Stanley Kubrick wouldn't have been that young when this commercial came out.
No. Yeah, because this came out in 1979.
This should make a comeback, though, because 7-Eleven
this is a perfect commercial, yeah.
Does have a pretty insane promotion that works for coffee. It works for every drink. So, like, I go there a lot and get hot chocolate in the morning because, like, if you have one that has the good hot chocolate machine, it's really tasty. And they have these cookies that are super good. So I start there a lot, right? And, you know, hot chocolate, same cup as the coffee cup, right? So they have a thing with the app that every time you scan it, when you go in, it's like a punch card. And any seventh cup is free. So they count those coffee cups / hot chocolate cups, but they also count Slurpee cups and soda cups, and any seventh one you get free no matter what the size is, no matter how much you're buying. So if I bought small hot chocolates every morning 6 times, I could get a giant Slurpee as my free cup if I wanted. It's a pretty great promotion. We are not sponsored by 7-Eleven, but I'm just saying this commercial could come back and the werewolf can be like, scan my app.
It should absolutely come back. So it ends with him drinking a cup of coffee, and then we get this kind of fade transition effect that reminds me a lot of the Campbell's soup commercial from the early 90s where the snowman melts into a little boy. But instead of melting into a little boy, it's a werewolf melting into a middle-aged white guy with like a rockin' stash.
It also reminds
balding
me of,
white guy.
It also reminds me of those Snickers commercials from recent years where it's like a celebrity. And
it's very similar to
like,
that.
You're not you when you're hungry.
I feel like he looks like the Micro Machines guy when he transforms.
Yeah. It's like a more wholesome version of those commercials, Kris. Yeah. And I could see the Micro Machines guy too. It's very much in those molds.
This is a great commercial.
It's so good. And it bookends perfectly because right after he drinks a coffee, another dude comes up in a werewolf makeup and he goes, "Hey Larry," and you get there. It's just like, this is how you craft a really great commercial. I just wanted to bring that up because I just thought this was a really fun piece of werewolf.
But again, in the
culture.
Daytime, no transformation from a full moon. We just gotta say it. We just gotta say it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is just the middle of the daytime, so no full moon here.
It's an alternate reality.
Yeah. And I guess there's no silver in 7-Eleven coffee, nor would there be, so
that we know of.
Yeah.
I want to see like a really gritty take on this commercial. Just really
like he's ripping entrails out of people.
Yeah, he's just like leaving a blood trail on the way to the 7-Eleven to get his coffee and like, popping people's heads off. And then the same really happy ending. Be great.
And then the people that are shopping at the 7-Eleven are his undead victims like Jack. They're just all rotten and fucked up and bloody. Hey, Frank.
Okay, so that was the
You got to kill yourself, Frank.
That was the 7-Eleven werewolf commercial. We are 2 picks in already. Kris, what is the next pick on our werewolf countdown
All
today?
right, I'm transitioning from commercials to television. So this is the segment we'll call introducing Kris tries to wedge Doctor Who into the show.
That can't be an actual wolf.
What do you do?
We run.
Is that it?
You got any silver bullets?
Not on me, no.
There we are then, we run. Your Majesty, as a doctor, I recommend a vigorous jog. Good for the health.
I want to talk about Doctor Who in a way. I want to keep bringing up Doctor Who in the same way that Mike from Red Letter Media keeps bringing up Star Trek all the time. I want to make this is my
wow.
This is my
hey,
thing.
Can I just say those guys liked Halloween Ends? What the fuck?
Oh yeah, we forgot about talking about Halloween Ends at the beginning of this show.
Yeah, that was gonna be our cold open. I'm just gonna say fuck that movie.
I mean, Halloween ended. What else is there to say?
What else?
Yeah,
it's over. Michael Myers will never come back ever again.
So is this like a real legit werewolf episode of Doctor Who?
Yeah, so as soon as we said werewolf and I was thinking TV, I was like, there's got to be a werewolf episode of Doctor Who. And then I remembered, of course there is. This is the third episode in the second season of new Doctor Who. So this is David Tennant's third episode as the Doctor.
Okay.
And I was trying to rack my brain because I know I've seen this episode multiple times because I've watched pretty much all of David Tennant's run, at least every episode at least twice, maybe multiple times. But I was trying to think, okay, well, this is the thing with Doctor Who. It's always like, oh, is it a werewolf? Or, oh, is it a ghost? And it's always an alien, okay? Doctor Who is a show about aliens because the Doctor is an alien and the monster of the week is always an alien. It's never
it's like a Scooby-Doo kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Right.
It's literally never not been an alien. Maybe one time it's been like a human who's also like time traveling or something like that, or maybe it's like an evil Time Lord, but it's usually an alien. And I was trying to think like, okay, they did a werewolf in this episode. How did they like twist that into aliens? And I think in the laziest way possible, it's just a werewolf who just happens to be like the species of werewolves just happen to be from another planet, and that's where we like get werewolf, like the myth of werewolves comes from. It's from like this one occurrence where these werewolf alien species came for like a little bit and tried to take over the British Empire. This is from 2006 is when this episode premiered. So this is still like like early new Doctor Who. David Tennant's just still trying to like get his footing as the Doctor in this episode. His hair's not like perfectly gelled yet. It's still a little messy. For some reason he just like has his collar just like unbuttoned for most of the episode, which is kind of weird.
He's still morphing from Eccleston, man.
Yeah. He's still slowly kind of getting his Eccleston traits in check, and coming up with his own stuff. But in this episode, the Doctor his plan is to take his companion Rose to 1979. Because 1979 sounds like a fun time. He steps out of the TARDIS, is immediately confronted with Queen Victoria and all of her guards like pointing guns at them, and he's like, 1879, close enough. And he happens to be in Scotland, and he realizes because everyone is speaking with a Scottish accent, and he immediately says, "Are we in Scotland?" And if you know anything about David Tennant, he is actually Scottish. When he played the Doctor, he decided the Doctor has to be British. He can't be Scottish. He needs to be like proper England accent. So he played the Doctor with an English accent.
But I think the Doctor can be Scottish.
Now, of course, we have Jodie Whittaker who does her full on Geordie northern accent. I don't like it. I think the Doctor should only have like an English accent. That's just me being weird. Peter Capaldi was Scottish and he embraced it, but I don't know. It's some things are weird and some things are not. I don't make the rules. It's definitely not classist at all. Basically, this episode just gives David Tennant an excuse to speak in his own accent, because then once he does, he's like, "Oh, in Scotland? Oh, I've been chasing this wee lass over hill and dale," and just starts speaking in his Scottish accent for pretty much most of the episode until shit hits the fan, and then he like reverts back into the English accent. But basically, this like cult, a group of warrior monks, intend to use an alien werewolf that they have captured to take over the British Empire. How are they going to do this? Well, obviously they're going to just like follow around Queen Victoria until the full moon comes, and then they're going to unleash this werewolf and have the werewolf bite Queen Victoria.
So we never mentioned how it's kind of ineffective that a werewolf can only attack once a month.
Right, yeah, they even mentioned that. They were like, you have no idea how difficult it was to get the Queen to come here to correlate her visit with the full moon. Which is kind of a funny
is it only once a month, full moons?
Yeah.
I thought it was like a couple nights a month. I thought it was like 3 nights
Yeah, because like American Werewolf in London, it's like the next night. It's like the full moon is there 2 nights in a row, right? That's what it,
yeah, we recently had a full moon,
like.
and I feel like it was 3 nights, at least.
I don't know full moon patterns, so I do not quote me on this.
That also will come up in the next television series I'll talk about. But yeah, basically the Doctor and Rose, his companion, are holed up in this mansion on the Scottish moors with Queen Victoria. A werewolf gets loose. They run around, various things. Lots of side characters die, just like they always do. And the Doctor comes up with some clever little plan that was set up earlier in the episode to get rid of the werewolf. But before the episode ends, it is left ambiguous whether or not at the last minute Queen Victoria was actually bitten by this werewolf. and then basically the episode ends with the Doctor and Rose discussing about all of how secretive the royal family are to this day. And he's like, actually, if she was bitten, it would take at least, about 100, maybe 120 years for the werewolf genome to fully take effect in her lineage. So it might not even have taken effect until recently. You know how secret the royal family are. And it Rose going, oh my God, they're werewolves, as the TARDIS takes off for the next episode. So I will say the downfall of this episode is that the again, this is early new Doctor Who, so they were full on using CGI in 2006 for TV. Now, if you know anything about the recent history of television, TV didn't start looking real good until about 2010, 2011. So this, even though this was 2006, it kind of feels like a 90s TV show, and the CGI is pretty fucking terrible. They didn't have it in their budget to go for full practical effects on this werewolf. I'm sure if you're Googling it now, you can see how the werewolf is basically a big CGI cartoon. So yeah, not the greatest effects of the werewolf. Mostly you're watching this show for the Doctor and...
You had me at Warrior Monks Unleashing an Alien Werewolf, and Scottish David Tennant is just cherry on top of the sundae.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good time. you pretty much, the werewolf is one of the last things I remembered about this episode, honestly.
Yeah. Very cool. I need to check that out. I'm so behind on Doctor Who, Kris. So I'm glad you're here to educate us.
It's okay. We'll get to a full Doctor Who episode at some point.
For those wondering how often is there a full moon, I do have an answer. So according to someone who responded on Quora, which is, of course, always accurate, there's a full moon every 27.3 days when the moon's orbit carries it opposite the sun in our sky. If by 5 times in a row you mean 5 Earth days in a row, you are simply choosing to call some of the days of the gibbous phase full. So there can never be an exactly full moon more than one day in a row. But there actually, to contradict that, there's only one time a month that can have till 2 full moons, and that's when the first full moon happens in the first few days of the month. This only happens every 2 to 3 years, so this is sort of the blue moon, I guess is what they're talking. I don't know. I don't, if any of that made sense to you. This is based off a very cursory Google search. So
basically, it sounds like I was fucking right.
Well, then the plot of American Werewolf in London makes no sense.
Hey guys, before we get to it, yes, basically, before we get to, I guess almost full moons count is what we're getting at. Before we get to our next pick, we haven't talked about the types of werewolves, so I'm just curious, what do you guys prefer, the bipedal, upright, classic Lon Chaney, Wolfman, or do you like the 4-legged, like American Werewolf in London style?
You're also discounting the howling type, the howling / ginger snaps type of bipedal, but still very wolfy.
Yeah. That's the other type. So there's 3 types. There's one that's more man than wolf, that's bipedal. There's one that's more wolf than man, that's bipedal, and then there's just your wolf.
Yeah, honestly, the howling type might be my favorite. It's upright but still snarling. But honestly, as long as the jowls are out and the eyes are blood red and there's viscera around the mouth of some sort, then that works.
Yeah, I mean, I say howling ginger snaps level's probably my favorite, but
Monster Squad, man, Monster Squad.
Yeah, I think he kind of looks like shit in Monster Squad, to be honest.
You are 100% wrong. It's the best werewolf.
I feel like it's my least favorite werewolf makeup of all time, actually.
Okay, Casey, you're officially booted off the podcast.
He's just taunting you now.
Oh, the Dr. Pepper one was better than the Monster Squad. And his way too far apart eyes.
Oh my gosh. They
didn't get Steve Wang to design the werewolf. Let's put it that way.
Casey. Okay, tell us your next pick, because you're just upsetting me right now.
Okay, so my next pick is going to be The McFarland toys, McFarland monsters, werewolf playset. I sent you guys a link in the chat that actually shows you all of them. So this is from 1997. I am old, so I was in high school at that time. So this is a playset that really, really cool stuff. 97, there weren't a lot of monster toys out. Okay. It's not like today where there's like 5 different companies making different versions of the monsters. So McFarland kind of revolutionized things with their Movie Maniac series, where they did current licensed monsters in a 7-inch scale. They were really, really cool. There was a Freddy, a Jason, absolutely tremendous Leatherface, and Syl from Species in the first series, which can kind of help you place when that came out. But what's really cool is he decided, I want to do the Universal monsters as well, but I don't want to license them. I want to do my own take on these classic monsters. And he did these more in like a 5-inch scale, and they are maybe 4-inch, somewhere around there. They're kind of small. But he did them as play sets, and he did them as his idea of what these characters should look like. And they usually came with a second figure that was kind of tied into the monster. So for example, Frankenstein, you would get a doctor, or, well, actually, I guess it's debatable whether he's supposed to be Igor or the doctor, because he has a hunchback. There was also a Hunchback of Notre Dame set, which is really weird that it wasn't a more classic monster. They
like
didn't
the Mummy.
Yeah, the Creature, which came out in the second series. There's a vampire, and there's the werewolf.
This Quasimodo set looks awesome, though, man. The Hunchback set looks great.
Yeah, he has a really cool like play set. But I gotta say, figure wise, the werewolf, absolutely great. He's kind of like your Howling style werewolf, I would say. He's more hunched over and more wolf-like than a lot of those are depicted. But the real gem of the set isn't the werewolf. It's the hunter he comes with. So he comes with this hunter, and in the package, he comes with pieces of a hunter. He comes up with ripped off arms, decapitated heads, severed legs, all of this stuff. But what's really cool is they have bones sticking out of them that you could actually reassemble the hunter and just have a regular hunter action figure standing next to him. Or you can just rip him apart and hang him in the tree that the werewolf comes with. And the tree's a pretty cool background. It has like a little hidden compartment in it. But
it's pretty tremendous.
It has hooks and stuff, so you can display the dead hunter just sprawled out in the tree.
And this hunter looks like the guy in the 7-Eleven werewolf commercial.
Yeah, he does. And he's actually this guy, Steve.
Proving it is a definitive werewolf.
Sure it's not Fred?
Yeah, he's a dude that worked for McFarland, so he's one of the employees' faces.
Oh, that was nice of them.
Yeah, he used to post on the toy message boards as Steve the Hunter, actually.
Casey, I feel like that's your dream, to be an action figure where you can tear your arms off and legs off. Like,
yeah, it's definitely not the Hasbro selfie series, because those look like shit, man. That's kind of some new tech that's just come out. But yeah, this is such a fun play set. Because yeah, you can hang the dead hunter upside down inside the tree. You can just strew his, you can just string his body parts all around the place. It's really fun. And
I missed out when I was a kid. I was given, my brother had like the Ghostbusters, like fire alarm, like, I don't know, the firehouse playset, and so I had that to play with. But that was like the only real. No, actually, I had a castle too. I had some castle. I don't know where it came from. So I had a couple cool playsets, but I don't know, man. I'm wishing I didn't have any monsters like that. So.
And also, in 2002, McFarland did a werewolf, and I sent you guys this in the chat because this is the most fucking crazy body horror werewolf figure like ever created. It's a guy like mid-transformation. So his mouth is opening up, and like a skinned werewolf head is coming out of his mouth, but there's another werewolf tearing its way out of his back for some reason. and then like his hand's turning into a paw and it's ripping all of his skin off. And it's like a werewolf by way of Hellraiser. It's pretty awesome.
Oh.
You can see the intestines shooting out of his mouth when his with the heads coming out.
That is disturbing.
Yeah, pretty amazing. So he's done a couple really cool werewolves, non-licensed, just fun stuff that he's done, and I just wanted to share those with the listeners and with you guys.
So it's pretty much, if you guys know the werewolf transformation from in the Company of Wolves, this is basically like a figure of reminiscent of that. Like,
yeah, but a more screwed up version.
Yeah. No, this is awesome.
It's like if you got the Company of Wolves and you combined it with a Nightmare on Elm Street 2 when Freddy comes out of Jesse and Grady's room and like pops out of his chest and slices out. It's like the toy version of a combination of those. It's pretty cool.
It's great, but that 97 playset, man, that's where it's at. For
Oh
me.
yeah, totally. Yeah. I didn't own the 2002 one. I definitely own that 97 one.
Oh, dude, you got to get another one.
Yeah, it's hard to find because you got to buy them carded, and McFarland toys, like, they have the worst yellowing and cracking of their packaging like of any vintage toy I've ever seen, man. They must have used shit plastic for that stuff.
All right, I guess it's time for our next pick. So I guess that would be me.
I was going to say, who is it?
A house on the edge of the woods.
Out here is safe and peaceful.
A family alone.
Mom?
Yes, sweetheart?
Can you leave the door open a crack?
A favorite uncle who needed their help.
Things haven't been going so good for me since I got back, sis.
You could come stay with us.
But when they invited him in,
Think I better keep my eye on you.
they let in something they could never imagine or ever escape.
What's wrong with you?
Bad Moon. It doesn't have to be Halloween to be this scary.
All right, so my pick today, I have our first movie today, and this is a werewolf movie that not a lot of people talk about. Neither of my movie picks are. I wanted to find some things, some werewolf stuff that are lesser known and maybe deserve a little spotlight, and I just discovered these over the last few weeks, and this is a movie called Bad Moon. Came out in 1996. It's directed by Eric Red, who he wrote The Hitcher, and he also co-wrote Near Dark along with Catherine Bigelow, so pretty good writer. He's directed a couple other things that I don't think are as well known. But Bad Moon has become a bit of an underground kind of werewolf favorite among like hardcore horror community, I think. But it's an adaptation of a book called Thor by Wayne Smith, and the whole gimmick with this movie is that the protagonist of the film is a dog, a German Shepherd, and it's a really great hook for a werewolf movie. So it was basically a werewolf versus a dog, and it's really, really fun.
And it's
I
5
think it's
minutes
a really
long, and the werewolf kills the dog.
no. This dog is awesome, dude. This dog rules.
The dog carries the story. Like the dog is Thor that the novel was named after.
Yeah, the dog in the movie is called Thor. The novel is called Thor, and before the MCU became the MCU, and when it was cool to name a dog Thor. Yeah, I just think this is a fantastic concept for a werewolf movie, and I love putting like a dog as protagonist in like a horror movie. I just think that's so much fun. You know, we have like Cujo and stuff, but like putting a dog against a monster is a really cool, creative idea. And so the werewolf in this movie actually looks pretty great. So we start off this movie, there's a really vicious werewolf attack. We meet a guy named Ted. He's a photojournalist. He's on some sort of, expedition adventure with his girlfriend. They're in Nepal, and they're with like another group of people. They retreat to their tent early on for some mid-evening delight, shall we say. And all of a sudden, a werewolf attacks this group. And then they come upon this tent. They're mid-bang. And you only catch glimpses initially, and then the werewolf rips open the tent, and you get a shot of his face really early on. So they're not hiding this werewolf, and he's definitely more of the bipedal kind of howling variety, but really like giant face, huge fangs, looks great. He destroys this girlfriend, like horribly slashes her and throws her about. It's pretty vicious. And then he claws the main character, Ted, or not the main character, he's more or less the main antagonist, but he claws Ted, and then Ted kills him with a shotgun. So again, this is following the American Werewolf in London rules of werewolves, and that you do not need a silver bullet to kill a werewolf.
I tend to feel like you should get bit instead of getting clawed to get transformed. I'm just saying.
Oh, no, you know what? He is bit on the shoulder. I guess it's a bite. Bite or claw. I think it's a bite. It's gotta be
in the saliva.
Yeah. I think it's a bite, yeah.
Because Jack was clawed.
Yeah. So 5 minutes in, bit. Already disregarded the number one rule about dispatching werewolves, but that's okay. This is American Werewolf in London did the same thing, basically. So this is a very like small cast. There are only really 3 main characters outside of Ted, and that is his sister Janet, her son Brett, and their dog Thor.
Janet.
Yeah, so after this attack, Ted goes to move in like this wooded area with his trailer. He's kind of trying to stay secluded. His sister Janet and his son Brett and their dog go to visit him for a minute, and we see kind of their like news reports coming about missing hitchhikers. And the cool thing about Thor is that they turn him into a detective. He's like, he's like Sherlock Holmes or Batman. He immediately is suspicious of Ted upon seeing him. Doesn't smell right.
Okay,
he goes to the woods.
Guys, hold on, Zach.
Yeah.
You made him sound like fucking Scooby-Doo. He's not sentient. He doesn't talk.
No, he doesn't talk.
Does not say ruh-roh.
You do get POV shots. You do get POV shots from Thor's perspective, as in the book, I think is mainly told from Thor's perspective. But they're cool. It's so I just love that he's such a like proactive dog, and he goes to the woods to sniff things out, and he finds like remnants of the hitchhiker victims. So he knows something's up with Ted. He knows something's not right. They end up going, they say their goodbyes. Eventually, the police come upon this scene, so Ted decides to move out, and he parks in the backyard of his sister's house, because they also live kind of in the woods. It's not described exactly what part of the U.S. they're in, some wooded area that's not too far from the city. So this whole movie is really just a cat and mouse game between Thor and Ted, and it's really fun. There are kind of moments where one is, Thor gets the jump on Ted and vice versa. I don't want to spoil everything. It's also very goofy. It's a very simplistic story. It's really just this cat and mouse game between Ted and Thor. There isn't a lot else that goes on. There are a couple other people that Ted attacks. And the werewolf itself looks great from close up, especially like his face. But when they do faraway shots and they see him walking, it's a little goofy. There's a scene where Thor comes upon Ted handcuffed to a tree in his werewolf form. And so you see his full body, like as a werewolf, handcuffed to a tree. And it looks a little silly, because it's just this huge hunched over figure handcuffed to a tree. His movement is a little awkward, like I said. But we do get a really good final showdown between Thor and Ted, again, without spoiling how they get there. That's a lot of fun. There is a werewolf transformation scene in this movie, and it is pretty awful. It's very, very CG heavy. And it didn't need to be, because there are really great like mid-transformation makeups that they kind of transition to. But to get there, they just do this really horrible like CGI, and it looks awful. And it's too bad, because the actual makeup at the center of the movie is good. Like the full-on werewolf makeup is good and pretty gnarly. So I'm not sure why they felt the need to just CGI it, but it's there. The acting isn't great in this movie either. The guy playing Ted, Michael Perry, is pretty one note. Muriel Hemingway, who is the mother, she has her moments. She has some fun scenes. And Primo, who plays Thor, the dog, is fantastic. This dog is so great. He totally makes this movie. I definitely recommend it. It's different. It's a really different type of werewolf movie. It's just kind of fun, popcorn, pulpy. It's very campy. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And if you want to see a dog fight a werewolf and kick its ass, this is a great movie. This is like the Halloween H2O werewolf movies. So it's fun. It's a gnarly werewolf. So there's some good werewolf attacks. So I definitely think this is a fun, thing to throw on at night. If you're looking for a different type of werewolf movie, it's less about atmosphere and more just about like munchy werewolf goodness with a really rootable protagonist. And so that's Bad Moon. Came out in '96. Definitely, I think deserves to be seen by more people. It's not going to rock your world, but it's good. It's a good werewolf.
Just beware the Frighteners level CGI.
It's bad. It's bad. So Casey, you have seen this movie.
Isn't that bad?
Yeah. Kevin recommended this movie to me.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think the Frightener CGI is that bad. Side note either. But no, Bad Moon, good movie. If you guys look it up, you can see like the werewolf is he's pretty good. They just should have like cloaked him in shadow a little bit more. They just showed him like off way too much, just like in naked light, and It's kind of an odd choice. Yeah, so that's Bad Moon. All right, Kris, you have our next pick.
Okay.
This werewolf show.
I'm going for TV again. If I have to think about one of my favorite werewolves, as in like the character, not necessarily the person, not necessarily the wolf form, but the person who turns into the werewolf. I'm going with Oz from Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Our homie Seth Green, right?
Played by our homie Seth Green, whom I was familiar with Seth Green when I was younger from Idle Hands, Can't Hardly Wait, Austin Powers, obviously. And then, of course, his like involvement with Robot Chicken going forward.
I think mine was It, right? Like that. Of course. I remember him from.
Yeah. I always forget about It, but yeah. But mostly Seth Green from those like late '90s movies. Like I always thought it was funny that when I watched Buffy later in my life, I was like, oh, this is how he was like introduced to probably a lot more people, was through this show where he is like a completely different type of Seth Green that we normally see. So the Oz, the character he plays, is a werewolf who dates Willow, the show's witch, and Buffy's best friend throughout the show. I think this is in season 4, which is, wow, I thought it was a lot earlier than that. For some reason I remember Oz being a part of the show a lot earlier, but I guess it was not till season 4 when he kind of came on and then came off. But Oz is like the coolest character on Buffy because he like hardly ever says anything. But when he does, he might only have like 3 lines in one episode, but they're like the funniest fucking 3 lines. Because he's just like the driest person, and he's always gonna say like the most hilarious thing in the driest possible way. But Oz has this little problem that he deals with, the fact that he's a werewolf, and this is a big part of this episode, which I'm talking about, Wild at Heart from season 4, which aired in November 1999. And in this episode specifically, the plot is that he has to lock himself in this sort of like makeshift cage, which they have in the library at Sunnydale, which I guess no one asks questions about. Like, hey, why do you have this giant man-sized cage in the library at this high school? Don't worry about it. Because the like plot of this episode is that Oz has to lock himself into this cage for at least like 3 nights during the full moon. While he's doing this, another werewolf comes into town. What are the coincidences? What a coincidence. And this werewolf happens to be a hot lady. And she like basically like has the hots for Oz, realizes that he's a werewolf, tricks him into essentially like werewolf boning in the cage overnight. So we get some like hot werewolf sex. Nothing explicit.
Oh, she got the TV. Lipstick. Oh,
yeah. It's like,
that sometimes when wolves have sex, they stick together.
Yeah,
and they can't get out.
Mm-hmm. They wake up.
Where
naked,
was that,
entangled. They wake up naked, entangled with a dead chicken, just like in the sheets somewhere. It's pretty awful. But of course, Willow walks in the next morning and sees them in the cage together, and thus sort of basically forces Oz out of the show, which fucking sucked. I hated when Oz left. He was such a great character.
People were very angry when he left the show.
I mean, we did. I mean, it was like in service of Willow essentially realizing that she likes the women too, and her subsequent girlfriend for the last like few seasons was a great character too. So wasn't all bad, but yeah, I would have liked more Seth Green on that show.
I feel like we've got a 4th werewolf type because Oz is kind of like the Bram Stoker's Dracula werewolf type.
It's a pretty good
kind of like
costume.
a monkey.
It almost looks like a premium like Goosebumps werewolf costume or something. But like
I'm telling you, man, it's the same. It's the same exact wolf form as Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah, it's interesting because this show is 1999. And I guess they definitely had a much higher budget than Doctor Who because they're going full makeup prosthetics. It looks pretty decent, for this type of show, but
because it looks like he got like before he's fully
actually he
transformed into
will
a wolf,
out a
and then he
little
got,
more
like,
than Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yeah.
Eventually, though, he gets more like howling looking.
Yeah, he's basically probably more howling looking than anything.
Yeah,
there's definitely just probably like stages to his transformation.
Yeah, because like the stuff they used to the toys and all the stuff that they sold were when he had more of the monkey look.
Mm-hmm.
He was a big seller in their action figure line because they could put a bunch of shirts on him and resell them a bunch of times, like they do with like a lot of pop figures now.
I did like that when they did the reunion picture and had the entire cast from Buffy. If you look at that picture, Willow, the actresses who played Willow, is holding both Seth Green's hand and the actor who played her girlfriend later in the show.
Oh, that's cool.
I know, that's cute.
Because they still should have been friends. Jesus.
Well, he did fucking cheat on her.
Well, yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Sure, he was a werewolf. Is it cheating if you're a werewolf?
Oh,
I guess so.
God, yeah, probably. Yeah,
he could have spoken.
He's a piece of shit for doing that. People were mad because they're like they turned him into a piece of shit and then kicked him off the show. Yeah.
Yeah. If Oz isn't cool, then I don't know. There's just no hope in
These are the kind of conversations we had when I worked at Borders like 8 years after this. Still, the wounds were fresh for people.
It's still fresh for me since I didn't watch Buffy until about 8 years ago or so.
I've seen the first episode of Buffy, and I probably should watch the rest.
That's it, the first episode.
Most of it holds up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, season 1 is probably one of the weakest seasons. So maybe you could even skip to season 2.
Good pick. Good pick. Seth Green Werewolf is a fantastic pick. So, Casey, what is our next werewolf stop here?
Okay, so I didn't do a review of this when we were doing our Don't Cross the Streams review heavy episode last time because I wanted to save it for this one. And it's Werewolf by Night. And I don't want to just talk the Disney Plus special, which I absolutely loved, but let's talk the comic as well that it came from. So Werewolf by Night came out in the 70s. It was part of the Comics Code changing so that mainstream comic companies could use werewolves and vampires and zombies and all of that. So, of course, Marvel immediately came out with a Dracula comic, a Frankenstein comic, a werewolf comic, and a mummy comic that failed miserably, as mummies do. They, Monster Frankenstein didn't do super great, but it lasted longer than The Living Mummy did. But the two mainstays were Werewolf by Night and Tomb of Dracula. And I've talked about Tomb of Dracula on our Dracula and Pop Culture episode. Love it. But Werewolf by Night is a comic. I'd say all of the Marvel monster comics from that era were good for either really cheesy fun or because they were actually good comics. And I'd say Tomb of Dracula, more often than not, actually good comic. Werewolf by Night, more often than not, cheesy fun. But I do gotta say, Werewolf by Night also brought us Moon Knight. He debuted in that comic. But Disney Plus, they went with Moon Knight first. His popularity far eclipsed the popularity of his original comic, kind of like Blade did with Tomb of Dracula. Interesting that both of them had a more famous spin-off than the actual book itself these days. But goddamn, I loved this Marvel one. It's not just a Werewolf by Night special. It brings in Elsa Bloodstone, who is a great Marvel character. She's a little bit newer, so some of you might not be familiar with her, but she's even in Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, the Switch game. But she's from a long line of monster hunters. They changed the story around a little bit to where she has to inherit the stone from her dead father. And the stone gives you eternal life in the comics. So I'm not sure exactly their explanation for the dad dying in that one. It's a really convoluted story in the comics that I won't get into. But there's basically a battle royale style game between a bunch of monster hunters. And one of them is a werewolf in disguise because the monster being hunted is his best friend. And the monster being hunted spoilers, he is in the trailer, is Man-Thing, who is one of the greatest Marvel characters of all time. He's a little different in this, in that he's not a mindless hulking creature, which was a big thing in the comics. They actually wrote all of his comics in second person also to get you inside the mindless creature's head. So you felt like you were trapped inside this heap. This one actually can talk to our werewolf friend, Jack Russell. Yeah, I know. They named the fucking werewolf Jack Russell.
Come on.
Yeah. But this was before they were a popular breed, probably. I don't know. Yeah. They don't call him Man-Thing either. I think they think they're too highbrow to have a character named Man-Thing. They just call him Ted the whole time. And I have a feeling Ted's going to be his official name for the MCU version. I don't think they're ever going to call him Man-Thing because of the dick jokes they're afraid of.
They call him Ted Thing.
They just call him Ted, man. He's just Ted. Because Man-Thing and Swamp Thing are very similar. There's a story about how they both came out at the same time for Marvel and DC. And both companies had people going back and forth. They're not sure who exactly was first. The comic released right at the same time. And of course, Swamp Thing's more famous because he had the movies, right? And he also had the incredible Alan Moore comics that were tremendous. But Werewolf by Night, we get to see a transformation because it's not a full moon when this happens. And he purposely is there in human form, but the Bloodstone makes him become a werewolf. And they do it so that he'll kill Elsa Bloodstone and get her, just get her out of the way of the other hunters and her evil stepmother. He learns to control it. He fucking wrecks people. He destroys things. It's great. Awesome looking werewolf. Another side thing is that he appears at Disney California Adventure for Halloween time, which is amazing.
This year?
He's
awesome. How does the costume look?
Oh, great. It looks just like the show. He's a lot more Lon Chaney. His face is a little more Bram Stoker's Dracula, a little bit monkeyish. But yeah, he's a dude. He's a werewolf dude that just wears pants, basically. But
I see.
Yeah, his human side is Gael Garcia Bernal, who's an amazing actor. Fucking love that guy. I've never seen him in anything that he wasn't absolutely amazing in, and he was great in this as well. So highly recommend watching it. It's only an hour long. Letterboxd counts it as a movie. If you're trying to do 31 on Halloween, I'm saving you some time. I'm giving you a bonus here. But yeah, please watch this. It's black and white except for some red for the Bloodstone until color kind of returns at the end a little bit. But it's good, spooky fun, and I can't recommend it enough. Check it out. It's probably my favorite thing Marvel's ever done cinematically.
Wow.
Yeah.
Big praise. Yeah, I definitely want to check out Werewolf by Night. Hopefully, I'll definitely do it before Halloween hits. So.
Yeah, it's definitely more tempting that it's a special and not an entire series.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because they don't have to stretch this out for 6 or 8 episodes. But just remember, all that feel fear burn at the Man-Thing's touch or Ted's touch. It doesn't sound as good.
Okay.
It doesn't sound as good.
All right, so my last pick on our werewolf journey here. My last pick. There's one more pick after this, of course, Kris. But my last pick, I really wanted to get like a good classic werewolf movie in here, and I watched Curse of the Werewolf, which is the only Hammer werewolf movie, and beautiful to look at, wonderful sets. But the werewolf doesn't show up until the last 10 minutes of the movie, and
he looks awesome.
He looks awesome, but it's a slog to get through. Yeah, it's a slog to get through. It's such a long and winding journey, and you just it's like a guessing game. It's like, okay, who's going to be the werewolf? And then you find out it's this kid. And then, anyway, that's not the movie I'm talking about because I didn't like it enough. But if there's anyone that's synonymous with the werewolf name, alongside Lon Chaney Jr. Lon Chaney Jr. Long Chaney's
the adult film version.
It probably is. So Lon Chaney Jr. Is an actor named Paul Nashian. If you're only, a general horror fan, you might not be as familiar with him. I'm still kind of learning more about Paul Naschy, but we have talked about him on the podcast in the past. Casey, you are a big fan of Paul Naschy. Do you want to say a little bit about him? Because you know more about him than I do, that is not even actually his name. That is a stage name. His actual name is Jacinto Molina Alvarez.
Yeah, but he doesn't use that name.
He goes by
Paul Naschy is like, if you aren't dipping your toes into European horror, or if you just watch stuff from Italy, you're missing out. There's a lot of cool stuff from Spain. It's just that Spain was under a dictatorship, and a lot of it didn't really get out a whole lot. Okay, so there were some problems there. He's really known for a lot of great werewolf movies, and this one that Zach's going to talk about is one of them. I would say my favorite is Horror Rises from the Tomb. If you guys ever see that streaming on anything in a set or something, watch that movie. It fucking rules. He's a warlock in that, though. He's not a werewolf. But yeah, right now, I think most of the movies that he's done are only available in a pretty expensive box set or two. But Zach was able to find one streaming, right?
Yeah, this is on Tubi. So I think the cool thing about Paul Naschy is that he's played like most of the monsters. Apparently he's done the Wolfman, Frankenstein's monster, Dracula, Hunchback of Notre Dame, Fu Manchu. He's known as the Spanish Lon Chaney. So
I'd say he's more like the Spanish Christopher Lee, honestly.
Yeah, this feels very much like a Christopher Lee Dracula movie, which is why I liked it. It's very Hammer. Really reminded me a lot of Dracula, Prince of Darkness, and Dracula is Risen from the Grave. And this is Night of the Werewolf. It came out in 1981. I chose this one because I was looking at his wiki, and this is apparently Paul Naschy's favorite werewolf movie in the Obre Lobo series, which there's 12 of them. They're all werewolf series. He plays a werewolf in all of them. He plays the same werewolf, but they're not serialized at all. They're all completely separate stories. His origin as to how he become a werewolf is different in all of them, though there is no origin given in the one I'm going to talk about.
I think though, he's got the same name in a couple of them, but it just doesn't make sense.
It's the same name. He's Count Waldemar Daninsky.
Yeah, he's Waldemar in every movie, I think. Yeah.
So there are 12 of them. This is the 9th one. It is the U.S. title was Night of the Werewolf. It was actually, I think, released initially in the U.S. as The Craving, which came out in 1985 in the U.S.
Such a shitty name.
It originally came out it sounds like a Goosebumps episode or something. It originally came out in 1981.
It's about me waking up at 4 a.m. and going and getting a bowl of cereal.
Yeah, the Spanish title translated is Return to the Wolfman, but on Tubi it's Night of the Werewolf. It's dubbed, the version I watched, but it's a good dub. The actors put a lot into it. It's a very good dub, so I'm sure if you can watch it, I watched it with closed captions as well, just because some of the audio is kind of hard to hear at times, like dialogue-wise, but this is a really fun movie. So, again, really classic kind of Hammer feel. It starts off, the intro of this movie is kind of hilarious, and it sets a great tone, but it also made me laugh a lot. So it starts off in, 15th century Hungary, and this high tribunal over there is sentencing this satanic witch named Elizabeth Báthory, who is the villain in this movie. She's amassed a large legion of followers, and she's
the real Elizabeth Báthory, the Bloody Countess. Yeah,
yeah. She's been using Waldemar, who is a werewolf, to do her bidding. And the scene where they're sentencing her and telling her her punishments and all the punishments of her followers is pretty funny. Because they go, okay, Elizabeth, you're being condemned for witchcraft, vampirism, and dealings with the devil. And then her punishment is to be buried alive until she's delivered by death. And so not to be outdone, her faithful servants are also being punished. Her faithful servants will be tortured and then reduced to ashes. And then this is my favorite part. They go, your evil brother, Moses Athos, shall be hanged.
Please watch the dubbed version if you can, just one. Yes.
I love that they singled out and called her brother evil. Your evil brother. I just wish they'd gone on and went, your asshole father.
Your bitch of a mother.
I just thought that was hilarious. And they cut to his evil brother, and it's just a dude in medieval getup. It just looked like with no reaction on his face. Of course, Elizabeth vows vengeance and that she will return. They kill Valdemir by putting like this awesome iron mask on him and like stabbing him with like a silver cross. Blood comes out. There's like a real long freeze frame. It takes like 30 seconds and you're wondering if the movie is frozen. And then it cuts to the opening credits. And then we go to present day. So this movie does not take in the past. It takes place in present day, I guess the early 80s, late 70s. And it follows 3 college students, Erica, Karen, and Barbara. They're on a trip to Rome for school, and one of them, Erica, has studied the occult and witchcraft, and she's basically very evil and wants to resurrect Elizabeth and take over the world. Her friends don't know this. They think she just wants to, look at the tomb. She ends up stealing something from one of her professors and strangling him to death. And so they go on this expedition to resurrect Elizabeth. Meanwhile, we cut to a couple of bumbling gravediggers, and they want to steal the silver cross that was used to kill Waldemar and keep him basically entombed, and they want to sell it to like a museum because, smart. So they decide to do this on a full moon because, again, smart. And as soon as they remove the dagger, Waldemar awakens and kills them. And so this whole movie, similar to Bad Moon, is a cat and mouse game between Waldemar and Elizabeth because, of course, Elizabeth is eventually resurrected by Erica, who sacrifices one of her friends. And her other friend, Karen, becomes basically like Waldemar's lover, sort of. And they're all sort of in this castle. It takes place in these castle ruins. And so you have like Waldemar and Erica. And Waldemar also has a faithful servant that's with him that I guess was resurrected along.
Sick, real back. Castle.
Yeah,
ruins
it looks great.
Too.
And then like on the other side of this castle or nearby, you have Elizabeth and Erica, and who are also vampires. Elizabeth is a vampire. And so she's turned Erica into a vampire. And I think her evil brother comes back to life as like this awesome zombie like skeleton dude. So they're like, you have this trio and they're trying to, get to Waldemar, and Elizabeth wants to turn Waldemar and get him back under his control so she can take over the world. And so it's this very kind of, again, like sort of cat and mouse game. There's like a lot of nightmare sequences and really fun effects. Nashi's werewolf makeup is a really good update on the Lon Chaney Jr. makeup. Just kind of a little nastier and gnarlier, and again, still more man than wolf. Just very hairy, but great fangs. And he definitely has that werewolf like prowl, like jump.
But great fangs.
There's some there's a great fight at the end of the movie between Nashi and Elizabeth, and he just like leaps off some ledges, and he's really got like that hunched leap.
They really play on the height and agility of the werewolf in his movies.
He's very light on his feet, this werewolf. He also has a sick crossbow that he uses when he's in human form. And
he kind of moves around like the cat guy in Spookies.
He does. He's very much like the cat guy at Spookies. Which, speaking of werecats, shout out to Scooby-Doo Zombie Island. That's a great little werecat movie.
Yeah.
I almost picked that one. Not technically werewolf, but I almost picked it. Anyway, this is, if you want to like this horror movie is like a horror movie that you would see a character like in a more mainstream horror movie watching on their TV. This is one of those movies that like just has atmosphere up the wazoo that a director's going to throw on because it's a bitchin' ass like vintage like werewolf movie, and they're going to have a character watching it in, the next Jordan Peele movie or something. He would totally probably throw something like this on in the background and have someone watching it. It just has such wonderful atmosphere, and it's not too much of a slog to watch. It moves at a pretty good pace. It's only like 90 minutes or something like that. If you just want like great gothic atmosphere, if you want like a Hammer movie, but not technically Hammer, but just has that same energy and really great, want to see one of the more prolific horror actors that is not as heard of, that is not as known in the US as he should be. This is a really great one. Again, this is apparently Paul Nashi's favorite of the ones he saw, so definitely recommend checking this out, or the one Casey mentioned. But yeah, this is like my first exposure to Paul Nashi, and I was really, really into it. So I definitely want to check more of that out. My rating would probably be like, I don't know, maybe 3.5, something like that. Really, really fun werewolf movie.
I've never seen anyone watch one of his movies and not go, this guy fucking rules. I need to see him in more stuff.
Yeah, he's great. So he's got a really good energy to him. And again, the dub was really, really effective. I was like pretty impressed with it. It there's no like voices that don't feel like they match the characters that are on the screen. They did a really great job with the dub. So that's on Tubi right now. Looks really good, pretty good quality. So definitely recommend checking that out. And that is my last pick, Night of the Werewolf, 1981.
Night of the Werewolf.
Yeah. Your evil brother.
Well, now it's time for me to talk about the scariest movie of all time on this list. The werewolf movie to end all werewolves. Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf.
It's Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Look for it on video cassette and DVD. The werewolf has moved to Florida.
Ah! How dare he retire just before the Monster Road Rally!
And Dracula knows where to find a new werewolf fast.
Randy, a werewolf? Oh, no! Oh, no! I'm a werewolf!
Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. It's a howling adventure full of mystery, monsters, and pizza.
Well, let's make like shovels and dig in.
Look for the DVD loaded with extras, like the races on game, a music video, get the picture Scooby-Doo, DVD-ROM games, trailers, and more.
Ooh, I like that.
Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Look for it on video cassette and DVD.
Scooby-Dooby-Doo.
Well, this is an animated made-for-television film from 1988. So this was like
1988.
Yeah. This was a little bit kind of.
This was a big deal to get a new Scooby-Doo movie back then.
Yeah, this was before all of the just glutton of straight-to-video Scooby-Doo movies that we've gotten in the last like 15 years. This was like a series of films from I think the 80s, 70s or 80s. There was also Scooby-Doo and the Boo Brothers, which when I was younger was my favorite of the Scooby-Doo movies, because it's basically like a treasure hunt movie at a haunted house. It's like Scooby and Shaggy going on this like treasure hunt storyline, following like clue to clue around this like haunted house. The Boo Brothers themselves kind of suck, but anyway, this is Scooby-Doo and the Reluctant Werewolf. Which I have a lot of nostalgic memories of these movies. This was, I think, I refer to these as like the Shaggy Red Shirt series, where for some reason instead of a green shirt, Shaggy's wearing a red shirt. And
that's weird.
The rest of Mystery Inc. are nowhere to be found. That bothers
me.
It's so weird. It looks so wrong.
Yeah, and the rest of Mystery Inc. are just for some reason nowhere to be found. I guess they were just like, nah, people only care about Scooby and Shaggy, so we're just gonna make these Scooby-Doo movies with Scooby, Shaggy, and of course Scrappy-Doo, which everybody hates. So the plot of this movie is that Dracula puts on this like wacky racer style like car race every year, and he invites all of his friends, the Mummy, Werewolf, all kinds of monsters, the classic Universal monster set, Swamp Thing, all get in on this. And for this year he's putting it on, and he realizes or he finds out that the Wolfman has retired to Florida for some reason, so he can't have the Wolfman, but he needs the Wolfman to be in this race. So he corrals Scooby and Shaggy, and basically like gives Shaggy a potion, I think, something that turns him into a werewolf during this full moon, so that he can participate in the race. And basically tells him if he wins the race, he'll turn it back into a human. So we then have a very like sort of it's basically the Great Race, where Scooby and Shaggy are on this race, and Dracula and his doofus henchmen try to stop them from winning the entire time, and are constantly just befuddled the entire time. Pretty funny. If you're a Scooby fan, I definitely prefer these, like the later Scooby movies. It's not as good as the TV show because we're missing like the entire trio, and it's not really like a mystery to solve here. So this is why when Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island came out, and they made such a big deal about the monsters being real, it's like, this time the monsters are real, and it's like, I mean, the monsters, I'd seen these cartoons.
Yeah,
like,
they were real in
real
these
monsters
ones.
in this one. There's real ghosts in the Boo Brothers.
Dude, the monster vehicles in this movie look awesome. I'm looking at some stills. I see the 6 skull vehicle.
Mm-hmm. That was another fun thing about this.
Yeah, it kind of sucks this wasn't a Wacky Races spinoff, because that got 13 episodes.
Did they make like any toy set based off this special?
Ooh, I don't know.
They may have made the werewolf, but years later.
Yeah, this looks awesome. Apparently, there was another werewolf, like an earlier werewolf episode of Scooby-Doo called "Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Werewolf," and it's like this goblin-y looking werewolf dude. And I'm curious to check that out too. But this is streaming. I think it looks like it's on HBO Max, maybe.
Scooby-Doo. I can only find it on Apple TV. There's a ton of Scooby-Doo stuff on HBO Max.
It's on Amazon Prime. It looks like.
Yeah, for some reason I don't know why Warner Brothers can't just get their shit together and have every Scooby-Doo property on HBO Max.
Apparently, the only toys are a set of PVC Shaggies. So you get a regular one, and then you get the werewolf.
But yeah, when I think about, like, you know, everyone sort of has that, like, stereotypical, like, cartoon version of the Universal monsters that they were introduced to as a kid before they actually saw the original Universal monster movies. And for me, this was it. This was, like, my sort of cartoon introduction to Dracula and the Wolfman and Frankenstein and the Mummy and everything.
And Zach, you'll recognize the werewolf from the original Scooby-Doo episode if you look it up. He's the green guy.
Yeah, I know. I looked him up. Yeah,
he's in the opening.
Yeah,
and it is Casey Kasem doing Shaggy and the original voice actor doing Scooby. It's funny because it's like the 80s now, so they sound like a bit older. Like it definitely sounds like an older man voicing Shaggy.
Yeah, he's raspy.
He is raspy.
Yeah,
it's like those later Mel Blanc voiced Looney Tunes where he's clearly got the smoker's cough.
Or like if you're a Headspace user and you use Rain Day Antiques 2 instead of Rain Day Antiques 1, like one person in the audience will get that and they're laughing right now.
This is a great pick, Chris. This looks like a really fun special. I'm definitely gonna try and maybe I'll throw this on.
Yeah,
right after
I can't really gauge in how people who didn't watch this when they were kids will enjoy it, but I think it's a lot of nostalgia for me in this, so I had fun with it. I would definitely recommend Boo Brothers. I think is the best one just because of the fun sort of plot, but this one also is awesome.
And you will get through it fairly quickly because it's only like 90 minutes long, right?
It's pretty short.
Yeah, or 80.
They're pretty. They're all pretty short.
Awesome. Yeah, that was great. I was looking at like Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet the Wolfman and things like that before this, and
yeah, I never saw that one. That was a little bit older.
That's a newer one. That's slightly newer anyway. Like, do you think 2000 or something like that?
Oh yeah, that was a straight to video. I heard it was horrible, but I've never seen it.
Oh, I've heard it's okay. Like, I mean, I watched Alvin and the Chipmunks Meet Frankenstein when we were trying to prep for the Frankenstein episode, and I was trying to find things to do. And that was okay. It had a great setup, but like it was just all right. But I heard the werewolf one's a little better. So anyway, these are great. So yeah, check out Scooby-Doo, guys. Scooby-Doo's OG Scooby-Doo is some good stuff.
Yeah, and
this
also
isn't OG Scooby-Doo, but it's close enough.
Yeah, if you want some old school Scooby-Doo merch, they've done some stuff of the werewolf. I have the Pop Soda figure, which is a little animated style figure of him. He's pretty cool. But yeah, man, we've given you 9 werewolf things. And a 9 upside down is a 6.
What more could you want?
And a 666 is the number of the beast, which is also a werewolf is a beast.
Yeah, that was our werewolf show. If you want to follow us, please follow us on Twitter, twitter.com/AMP horror. You can also subscribe to us on YouTube under Another Mishable Podcast. Make sure to check out our website, anothermishablepodcast.com. You'll find all the streaming services we are available on there. And you can also stream the episodes straight from our website. If you want to follow us on Letterboxd, we are under A Miserable Pod. Yeah.
If you want to hear Zach on a different podcast with me talking about the Aristocats, you can find that on YouTube if you search for "Can You Hear the Pod Tonight?"
It was a fun time. It was a fun time.
And when I read the tweet, I thought you were talking about the Aristocrats. Great documentary.
It is, yeah.
Not Disney friendly.
No. If you want to hear us talk about drunk geese, tune into that show.
Yeah.
It's a really great podcast. Can You Hear the Pod Tonight? Chris, where else can they find you on Twitter?
You can find me at Twitter at Kris Pistol, Kris with a K, Pistol with a E.
And Letterboxd.
Twitter, Letterboxd, YouTube, all the things.
Casey, what about you?
Find me at Lucha Gringo, Letterboxd, Twitter, Venmo, send me money.
Yeah,
you know?
Me too.
Yeah.
You guys have your Halloween plans set? Are you guys dressing up this year?
I'm going to be Macho Man Randy Savage. I have everything ready to go.
We're doing a classic Halloween couple pair that I've never done before, which is 2 sheets, sunglasses, dog matching sheet ghost costume.
Nice. Okay, that's
nice.
We'll see how well
that's a good one.
We'll see
that's
how
nice
well
and
the
old
dog
school.
takes to it.
I'm doing I'm single and lonely, so I'm just going to eat Halloween candy and watch some movies.
I have to go Thursday. We're going to go defend our honor at Harry Potter trivia.
Yeah.
We won.
Nice.
We
Good
won
luck.
2 years ago. One of my good friends went last year. We couldn't go, and they won. So the nerds all stick together, and I think we're going to go together and defend our honor.
Do you want to give a shout out to Remus Lupin, since I thought you were going to pick him?
Yeah, I thought about doing Remus Lupin. Prisoner of Azkaban is turns out is a fucking great Halloween movie.
Oh yeah, it's a good one.
I mean, yeah, I put that soundtrack now is in my Halloween rotation. So definitely recommend that one. It's the best Harry Potter movie and fucking great werewolf.
Awesome. Before we go, I do want to just mention this is our 75th episode, guys. Number 75. It is a milestone. We've been doing this 3 years now, so it doesn't seem like a lot for like 3 years.
I definitely thought we were in 100.
Quality over quantity, So we're slowly plugging away. That doesn't count like our commentary, so we're, I guess, technically a couple above that. But 75 regular episodes, and just thank you if you've stuck with us the entire way. We really, really appreciate that. We're going to keep going because we're having fun. And when it's not fun, we will stop.
And if you need to catch up, start.
Yeah.
If you're new.
Just skip like the first, 8. The audio wasn't great.
I mean, we have some gems in there. It's fine. It's fine.
If you can listen past like the bad audio and us not knowing what we were doing, there's some fun nuggets in there. Listen to our history and horror episodes. Those are really old school.
Yeah. Listen to the ones with the different years. Those are good. Yeah.
Yeah. Where we were just going through way too much stuff and not talking about it enough. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Halloween season. I hope you have a very happy Halloween, because this will probably come out like the day before Halloween. Stay safe. Check your candy. I'm sure your candy's fine.
Don't check your candy. Just eat
or
it.
Just buy it. Just go to CVS and just pick out. Buy some candy if you're too old to trick or treat, and soak up as much as you can. We've only got a little short time left, and even after Halloween ends, you can bring a little Halloween with you throughout the entire year. That's what we do here on Another Mishable Podcast.
Yeah.
So
decorate your house and give out candy. Don't be a dick. These kids need these memories in their life. They get to grow up like us if they have good ones.
Yeah, we need to put a little more decorations out at my parents' house. So.
I was going to do it today, but it's windy as hell here right now. I don't know about for you. But yeah.
My apartment's pretty decked out. Well, at least my
it looks like it.
You can't tell from this angle, okay? My Halloween decorations are to the side of me. Anyway, take it easy, everybody. Kris has lights. I like them. Happy Halloween. We'll see you in November.